She bought a sex toy. Donald never asked why. Donald found it by accident.
He was looking for a phone charger in the drawer on her side of the bed, and there it was, tucked beneath a paperback she had been reading for 3 months and a lip balm she claimed to have lost. He stood there for a moment. Then he closed the drawer. Then he sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall for a long time. He was not angry. That surprised him. He had expected to feel something sharp, betrayal maybe, or jealousy, or the particular kind of wounded pride that men are not supposed to talk about. What he felt instead was something quieter, something more uncomfortable than anger. He felt like he had been absent from something important without realizing he had ever left. Donald and his wife Michelle had been together 11 years, 3 kids, a life they had built carefully and with genuine love. Their intimate life had slowed, as it does for most couples in that season, but he had told himself that was normal, that she was tired, that they were both tired, that this was just what 11 years looked like. What the drawer told him was something different. She was not too tired. She had just stopped waiting for him to figure out what she needed. That evening, Donald did something most men in his position would not do. He did not pretend he hadn't found it. He did not make a joke. He sat across from Michelle after the children were asleep, and he said, quietly, without accusation, "I found something today, and I think it means I've been missing something for a long time. Will you help me understand?" What Michelle told him that night changed the way Donald thought about his marriage, his responsibility, and himself as a partner. This video is built on what she said, and on the research that had been documenting it for years before either of them knew to look. The numbers most men have never seen. Let's start with the research, because the numbers are not what most men expect, and they tell a story that the culture around male sexuality has been largely unwilling to say out loud.
A landmark study published in the Journal of Sex Research, one of the most comprehensive surveys of sexual behavior and product use ever conducted in the United States, found that 52.5% of women reported having used a vibrator at some point in their lives. That study was published in 2009.
By 2016, research from Indiana University's Center for Sexual Health Promotion found that figure had risen to over 53% for women, with significantly higher rates among women in long-term relationships compared to single women.
Read that again. Women in long-term relationships, married women, partnered women, women who have a man in their bed, are among the highest users of personal pleasure devices. Not single women, not women who are without a partner, women who have one. A 2020 global survey conducted by Lelo, one of the world's largest intimate wellness companies, whose data has been cited in academic research, found that 67% of women surveyed had used a vibrator, and that 70% of those women reported their primary reason was that it was more reliable at producing orgasm than partnered sex alone. More reliable, not more exciting, not more novel, more reliable. And here is the number that should land with the most weight. Research consistently shows that between 70 and 80% of women cannot reach orgasm through penetration alone, a figure we covered in depth in the previous video in this series. The sex toy industry did not create that gap. It filled it. The question Donald sat with that evening, the question this video is built around, was not why does she have one? It was, why did she need one? What this is really saying, let's be direct about what these numbers mean, because the instinct for many men, when confronted with this reality, is to either dismiss it or take it as a personal attack. It is neither. Dr. Debbie Herbenek at Indiana University, whose research on female sexual behavior is among the most cited in the field, has studied women's use of personal pleasure devices extensively. Her findings are consistent. Women who use vibrators report higher rates of sexual satisfaction, higher rates of orgasm, and critically, higher rates of relationship satisfaction than women who do not. Not lower, higher. Women are not using these devices because their partners are inadequate as people or as men. They are using them because their bodies require a specific kind of stimulation that most men were never taught to provide, and because these devices reliably deliver that stimulation in the way that clitoral-focused, consistent, patient attention does.
This is the same anatomy we discussed in the previous video. The clitoris, with its 8,000 nerve endings, its internal structure surrounding the vaginal canal, its design as the primary source of female orgasm, does not care about ego. It responds to what works.
And for the majority of women, what works is clitoral stimulation, of a kind that most partnered encounters have historically under-prioritized. Dr. Emily Nagoski, whose research on female sexual response is foundational in this field, argues that the prevalence of women's personal pleasure device use is not an indictment of their partners. It is a measurement of the orgasm gap, the documented, researched, statistically significant difference between how reliably men and women reach orgasm and heterosexual partnered sex. Michelle did not buy a device because Donald was not enough. She bought one because she had stopped believing that what she actually needed was something she was allowed to ask for.
That is not a device problem. That is a communication problem. And it is one that belongs to both of them. Why she didn't tell him. This section is for the men who are now sitting with the uncomfortable question, why didn't she just say something? The research answers this directly, and the answer is important enough to say carefully. Dr. Sarah Chadwick and Dr. Sari Van Anders at the University of Michigan documented a pattern they called partner-focused orgasm concern, the tendency of women in heterosexual relationships to actively manage, suppress, or conceal their own sexual needs in order to protect their partner's ego and avoid conflict.
Women were not staying silent because they didn't trust their partners. They were staying silent because the cultural script around male sexuality had taught them, and taught their partners, that a woman's unmet needs were a reflection of a man's failure. And failure, for most men, is not a conversation they welcome.
So she adapted. She reduced her expectations. She told herself it was fine. She found another way to take care of herself, privately, quietly, without making it anyone's problem. A 2021 study published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior found that 58% of women who used personal pleasure devices in long-term relationships had never told their partner. Not because they were ashamed of the device, because they were protecting him from a conversation they believed would go badly. Michelle told Donald that evening on the sofa that she had bought it 18 months earlier. 18 months of a solution to a problem she had never felt safe naming. Donald asked her why she hadn't told him. She said, "Because I didn't want you to feel like you'd failed, and I didn't think you'd want to know." He had wanted to know. He had just never made it safe for her to tell him. What men actually get wrong. The most common male response to discovering a partner's personal pleasure device is one of three things. Insecurity, the feeling that he is being compared to something and losing. Dismissal, deciding it is not a big deal and moving on without processing what it might mean. Or avoidance, pretending it does not exist and hoping the conversation never happens. All three responses have one thing in common. They make it about him. And the moment the conversation becomes about his feelings about her solution, the actual conversation, the one about her needs, her experience, and the gap between what she has been getting and what she actually requires, never happens. Sex therapist and researcher Dr. Ian Kerner, author of She Comes First, one of the most widely read books on male sexual responsibility toward female partners, argues that the prevalence of women's personal pleasure device use should be read by men not as a threat, but as data. Specific, actionable data about what the female body needs and what partnered sex has consistently failed to deliver. The device is not the competition. The orgasm gap is the problem. The device is the symptom. And a man who responds to the symptom with insecurity has missed the diagnosis entirely. What Donald understood, sitting across from Michelle that evening, was that the drawer was not a verdict on 11 years of marriage. It was an invitation, one she had been too afraid to send directly, to finally have the conversation they should have had years earlier.
What the research says happens when couples engage together. Here is where the research becomes genuinely encouraging, because the story does not end with the drawer.
Multiple studies on couples who incorporate personal pleasure devices into their shared intimate lives have found consistent, significant improvements across every measure of sexual and relationship satisfaction. A study published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine found that couples who use vibrators together reported higher sexual satisfaction, higher relationship quality, and higher rates of female orgasm than couples who did not, with no negative impact on male satisfaction or sense of connection.
Dr. Herbenick's research at Indiana University found that men who were comfortable with and supportive of their partner's use of personal pleasure devices, including during partnered encounters, reported higher sexual confidence, not lower.
The insecurity most men fear does not materialize in practice. What materializes instead is a partner who feels genuinely prioritized and who responds to that prioritization with a level of openness and engagement that most men in long-term relationships have not experienced in years.
The research is clear. A personal pleasure device used together is not a replacement for a man. It is a tool that allows the couple to reliably deliver what her anatomy requires, the consistent clitoral stimulation that produces orgasm, while maintaining the emotional and physical connection that makes intimacy meaningful. It does not replace him. It completes the circuit. We will go deep on exactly how in part 2 of this series, the full guide to couples using them together, what the research says about positioning, communication, and integration, and how to have the conversation that starts it all. That video is linked above.
What Donald did and what you can do. Donald and Michelle spent 3 hours talking that night. Not arguing, talking. The kind of talking that 11 years of managed silence had prevented. Honest, vulnerable, specific, and long overdue. Michelle told him what she needed. He listened without defending. He asked questions without making the answers about himself. And at the end of that conversation, he said something that Michelle told him later was the most significant thing he had said in their marriage.
"I'm sorry I made it easier for you to solve this alone than to tell me. That's going to change."
It did change, gradually, imperfectly, and in the way that real change in real relationships always happens, not all at once, but consistently, over time, in the accumulation of small decisions made by a man who finally understood what his partner actually needed.
Here is your call to action. If any part of Donald's story felt familiar, if there is a drawer in your house, a silence in your relationship, a gap between what she is getting and what she actually needs, the conversation is available to you tonight. Not a confrontation, not a confession, a question.
Is there something I haven't understood about what you need from me physically? I want to know, and I want you to feel safe telling me. That question, asked with genuine openness and no agenda, is the beginning of the conversation that changes everything. The research is on your side. The tools exist. The only thing missing in most relationships is the man who is willing to ask.
Let's wrap up. She stopped waiting, not because she gave up on you, because she found a way to take care of herself in the silence that had grown between you, quietly, privately, in the space where a different conversation should have been.
The numbers tell us this is not one couple's story. It is the majority. More than half of women in long-term relationships have found their own solution to a need their partner never knew how to meet. That is not an accusation. It is an invitation to finally have the conversation she has been waiting to be asked into.
Donald had it, 11 years in the most uncomfortable moment of his marriage. And on the other side of it, he found something he had stopped believing was still possible.
A wife who felt chosen, a marriage that felt alive, and a partner who finally felt safe enough to need him, specifically, honestly, and completely.
That is what this channel is built for. Subscribe, watch part 2 of this series, and share this with a man who is ready to stop missing what is right in front of him.